But given the events of the last several months, I cannot remain silent about the threats to the very foundations of our constitutional republic. Upon the close of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, Benjamin Franklin famously said, when asked what kind of government they had given us, he said, "A republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it." There are those in the media and elsewhere, Democrat and Republican, who have accused our president of undermining democracy and the peaceful transition of power by disputing the results of the election on November 3rd. Some have even used words like coup attempt, sedition, and treason. They have asserted that he, and by extension the 74 million Americans who voted for him, bear responsibility for the few hundred barbarous rioters in the Capitol last Wednesday. The tech oligarchs have shut him out of every major social media platform, while the Chinese Communist Party, which murders the Falun Gong and forces Uyghurs into internment camps, Iran, Venezuela, continue to have active Twitter accounts. Now, Mr. President, we must condemn unequivocally the rioters who breached the peace in that shrine of democracy that is the U.S. Capitol. But the President and our U.S. senators and the 74 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump bear no more responsibility for the violence, the rioting, and yes, the murders than Black Lives Matter activists did in the violence and rioting and the murders that occurred over the last 6 months. This blaming of the president and his supporters is utter nonsense. Now, there are many who wish that Donald Trump would have gone away and conceded quietly the way Richard Nixon did in another irregular election in 1960. But there is nothing saying he was required to do so, or even that it was the right thing to do. Every effort of our president since November 3rd involved persuasion and legal means to get to the bottom of what was clearly a highly irregular election. And what do I mean by highly irregular election? It is abundantly clear, and the facts are undisputed, that the judicial and executive branches in 4 states violated the constitutional standards for holding presidential elections. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the Electors Clause of our Constitution holds that each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress. The legislatures of the respective states set the rules for governing presidential elections, and activists, secretaries of state, and activist judges have no say in the matter. 4 states did something they cannot constitutionally do. They violated the U.S. Constitution in their conduct of a presidential election. And this violation occurred regardless of how much quantitatively election fraud may have resulted. Those 4 states, of course, were Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. When the Pennsylvania Supreme Court extended by 3 days the deadline for receiving mail-in ballots, contrary to the law passed by the state legislature, the state court changed laws in violation of the Electors Clause. When Georgia's feckless Republican Secretary of State responded to a lawsuit by entering into a consent decree with the Democrat Party of Georgia and modified the signature verification laws spelled out by the Georgia statutes, he changed the rules in violation of the Electors Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The executive and the judicial branches of Pennsylvania and Georgia have no authority whatsoever to change the rules by which our president is elected, even if there is a virus going around from Hunan, China, with a 99.7% survival rate. It is clear also that there were constitutional violations in individual counties in each of the 4 states, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, when they changed the way in which ballots would be received, evaluated, or treated. In 2000, in the landmark case of Bush versus Gore, the U.S. Supreme Court held that it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution in the 14th Amendment when one Florida county treated ballots one way and other Florida counties treated ballots differently. Voters have a constitutional right under equal protection to have their ballots treated equally from county to county. So when officials in Wayne County, Michigan ignored the requirements of Michigan law and denied poll watchers access to vote counting, while other counties in Michigan followed the law, they violated the Equal Protection Clause. When the Milwaukee Elections Commission ignored the requirements of Wisconsin law and directed election workers to cure ballots by writing in the addresses of witnesses on the envelopes containing mail-in ballots, while ballots without witness addresses were deemed invalid elsewhere, that too violated the Equal Protection Clause. Ballot drop boxes, ballot harvesting, ignoring mismatched signatures, curing defective ballots, allowing votes by out-of-state or dead voters, not to mention the grossly inappropriate acceptance of money from a partisan Silicon Valley billionaire to enhance turnout in his favorite counties. 2020 saw some of the worst violations of election integrity in our history. But some might say it doesn't make a difference. Even if a little fraud happens, you can't show it influenced the election outcome. First of all, this is irrelevant. When the Constitution is flagrantly violated, the president and our elected officials have a duty to stand up. But secondly, there are numerous elections in our history where elections have been stolen. Robert Caro, the historian of LBJ, in his classic biographies, documented LBJ stealing his first U.S. Senate election. Heritage Foundation's election fraud database documents many elections in which fraud enabled the stealing of elections. Why do I bring this up? Because after 2020, we in Missouri need to bolster election integrity to shore up Americans' confidence in our votes. We need reforms to make sure that citizens can be confident in the legitimacy and fairness of their elections. If we really want to return to civil discourse, to unity, to free, to open dialogue on the issues that challenge our country, we need to pass election reforms, including the one I filed today, requiring for paper ballots, and not be silencing our fellow citizens for their political beliefs. Mr. President, we have a republic if we can keep it. Thank you.